I'd like to call the meeting to order. It's a few minutes after 5:30, and we'll begin. Fred's not here, so I'm going to chair the meeting tonight. Can we have the roll call, please?
Fred Cobb, Chris Diana,
Here.
Jerry Moreland, Ann Hines Silvis,
Here.
Abdul Hakim Salam,
Here.
Karen Hodges Jones,
Here.
Michael Brown,
Present.
James Winston,
Here.
Reverend Robert Freeman.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Kelly. If you look at your agenda, we have under new business, the Emergency Solutions Grant. That needs to be removed from the agenda, so I'm wondering if someone will make a motion.
I move that the emergency solution grant be removed from the agenda.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Hi, Fred. You want to take over?
Keep going until he gets ready.
Okay. We'll keep going. We'll keep going until you're ready, Fred. Okay. Next on the agenda is the approval of minutes from our September 26th meeting. You had that in the packet. Has everyone had a chance to look at the meeting minutes from September 26th? Can I have a motion for approval?
I had a quick
quick.
note, sorry.
Okay.
So as other commissioners might do, or maybe just me, very self-centered, I looked for my name, and at the top of page 5, there's a paragraph, and I noticed in the first line it says I asked about selling to a community or neighborhood. I think that wording is inexact. I asked about like convincing a community or neighborhood that this particular change was a good thing, and selling, especially when we're talking about property, doesn't quite fit. Then in the 5th line, it's a little incoherent, so that a lien placed on the property would be, we would consider forgiving it if the property is, et cetera, et cetera. So just those two things I noted.
Okay, do you have recommended language, or do you want to just suggest the correction? That second one, I think, is just a wording correction.
Yeah, typo. Let's see. Instead of selling, I would recommend, how about getting community or neighborhood buy-in instead of selling to a neighborhood or a community or neighborhood.
Okay, do you think that's kind of like...
It's the same
that-
semantic.
Yeah, it's almost the same. What about encouraging the community to accept? or
That would be
something
fine,
like that?
too.
That gets rid of what you were concerned about, the buying and the selling.
Right.
Okay. Any other changes before we have a motion? Corrections, adjustments? Okay. How about a motion with those? Michael, do you want to make a motion with those corrections?
Yes, I would like to
Okay.
move to accept the minutes with the corrections I just noted.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor of approving the minutes with the corrections as noted by Michael, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, and the motion carries. I'm going to turn it over to Fred for, do you want to start here?
Okay, number 4.
Yeah, that's where we are.
Petitions and communications. Do we have anything, Kelly?
No, we don't.
Okay. Audience participation. We have anything from the audience that's not on our agenda?
We will have under staff report Cheryl Palmer to speak about the men's shelter and give an update on that. So we'll have her do that.
Okay.
Yeah, after our staff report.
Okay. Next, we have staff report.
Okay, so if you want to pull out the staff briefing that I sent, out in the packet, you'll see that we have had a lot of activity, particularly receiving a lot of letters from HUD regarding our monitoring review results for the supportive housing program, our letter from HUD regarding our response to the CDBG program monitoring, and everything that we submitted was approved, and everything is closed, and so we're good to go, which is great. We also received a letter from HUD thanking us for hosting the regional grantee conference or meeting here for the central and southwest part of the state at the Civic Center. And the letter went to the mayor, so that was good. And then we also received our program year-end review letter for program year 2016, which it was due on December 1st, so we reviewed the letter and sent additional information to HUD, so that's been hopefully addressed, and so you can see that it was a lot of work working on that. Also looking at things that staff are doing, still, our community development block grants, social service funding, processing requests, working on the annual action plan amendment, which Matt will talk about under new business. We've also applied to IDA for the abandoned property program round 3. So Matt did a really good job on gathering all the information and contacting others, and so we got that submitted on time, actually a day early, which was good. So that, and you can see under the Housing Rehab Coordinator the different grants and how many projects and applications have been received, and of course our activities as far as all the meetings that we attend and webinars. So that if there's any questions, let me know. That's our staff briefing.
Any questions, comments? If not, we'll proceed to next item, which is old business. We have nothing listed under old business, unless if someone wants to bring up something. Next, we got new business. Under new business, we have the... Yes,
I forgot to have Cheryl come up after my staff report. Sorry. So if it's possible, she could come up now and talk about the men's shelter. That is a collaboration with United Way and New Covenant Fellowship and Faith United Methodist Church. We thought that might be something of interest to the commission about
okay.
So if you want to take it and talk.
Welcome.
Thank you for having us. I won't go into tons of details, just give you a couple of statistics
Read it.
since we've opened. We opened up November 20th early thanks to Cunningham Township, you may be aware. We've seen, as of Saturday, 55 different men in the first 2.5 weeks. As of Saturday, we were averaging 22, but Monday night we had 29 men, and last night 27. And we're not sure what we're going to do if all 55 show up at the same time. But so far, that has not happened. We're thrilled to have this up and running. The need is obviously there, and every dollar we can get to help make this happen. We've been working closely with Matt and Kelly, and I think the data that we've already collected, in fact, like I said, we've got an intake form on all, and we may be even up to 658 by now. And like I said, 2.5 weeks in. So we're averaging about 3 new people a night. We assume that will slow down. We hope that will slow down, but we'll see. So I'm here mostly to answer questions and just thank you all for your support.
Last night I was with the Cunningham Township and we're talking about that, and I was advocating for more money. And so please, whatever we can do to support and push, I think this is very necessary.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been thrilled to work with Matt and Kelly and the whole counselor, or the care providers for the homeless, and it's a very collaborative effort, and we're very appreciative. Any other
Okay.
questions?
Any other questions? Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. I'm going home. You all have a good night.
Can you get us some Starbucks?
I actually got to stop by the shelter with some paychecks. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, we'll proceed into new business. Under new business, we have the annual action plan. First, a resolution approving modifications to City of Urbana and Urbana Home Consortium fiscal year 2016-17 and 2017-18 annual action plans. You want to elaborate?
Sure. I'll present on both of the resolutions since they're very similar and dovetail into one another. Primarily, the amendments will allow for funding that has already been allocated to the city of Champaign based on their population. It will allow the city to use it for rental new construction activities associated with the Bristol Park redevelopment. Right now, they're programmed in the annual action plan to be used for full house improvement program activities, which is the equivalent of our whole house rehabilitation program. And we, upon their request, we are offering to change and proposing to change the annual action plan to reflect their desire to use their funding for rental new construction activities. So just generally, any substantial changes to our annual action plans, in this case, they've requested funding from fiscal year 16-17 and 17-18, we would need to change those annual action plans to allow rental new construction activities, and anytime they make that request, we as the City of Urbana have to do that as the lead entity for the Urbana Home Consortium. So we also held a public hearing at 5 o'clock today, just prior to this meeting. We did receive one public comment, and that was from Sheila Dodd in the audience over there. She wanted to make sure that while we are working on rental new construction activities, that the Urbana Home Consortium also keeps in mind the importance of affordable single-family homeownership opportunities. So just talking about the mini plan also, the second resolution, it works in tandem with the amendments to provide fiscal year 18-19 funding, which has not yet been released to the Urbana Home Consortium from HUD. And according to the federal regulations, participating jurisdictions are allowed to request funding that has not yet been released. We just have to develop, if not a full annual action plan, then a mini plan just describing the project. So that was essentially what was done and was included in the packets. And between the fiscal year 16-17, 17-18, and pre-award funding for 18-19, it should total $415,451.93 that the City of Champaign will be able to use for their redevelopment activities. Another change that is included in the annual action plan amendments and not the mini plan concerns our CDBG public facilities activity. The change there has been made to allow for the City of Urbana to use CDBG funds in tandem with TWG development and the Aspen Court Complex. They have been awarded low-income housing tax credits, the same as the developer for Bristol Park, and they are using the low-income housing tax credits to rehabilitate all of the units on site. And they have also made a request to the City of Urbana for community development block grant funds that could be used for common amenities that would benefit not only the residents at Aspen Court, but also people from the surrounding neighborhood. So we're still working on what amount of funding that would be, and we're still working on what form that would take, if it's even allowed to occur, because they do not want to trigger Davis-Bacon Prevailing Wage Act for the rehab work. So we're still not entirely even sure if using CDBG for public facilities would trigger that or not. But because we're doing the amendment, we wanted to also include that as well. It doesn't commit us to providing funding for this activity. It simply would allow us to consider the possibility. So those are the changes in the amendments. The CDC has the options to forward one or both of the resolutions to the Urbana City Council with a recommendation for approval, forward one or both of the resolutions to the Urbana City Council with a recommendation for approval with additional changes, or to not recommend approval of one or both of the resolutions. In terms of fiscal impacts, the home amendments only concern City of Champaign allocated funding that would have otherwise only been used in the City of Champaign for their activities. It has no impact on activities within within the City of Urbana. And then the CDBG funds, those would otherwise be used for public facility activities, which could include acquisition, demolition. Those are really the ones that public facilities concerns now. Programmatically, both the rental new construction within Champaign and the common area amenities at Aspen Court would be in line with the guidance given in our consolidated plan, our comprehensive plan, the mayor and city council goals, and various other documents. So staff recommends that the CDC review the resolutions and make a recommendation for both resolutions that they be approved by city council. Are there any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. Oh, yeah. Okay. Recently, it's been publicized that HUD is redoing a lot of the public housing, and it's going to require that a lot of the tenants move. And I was wondering, considering that, if that will have any impact on what's going on here as far as, say, those tenants having access to these new units, Bristol Park and Aspen, or has that been brought up?
So
because a lot of people have been complaining about it.
yeah,
Is that the one that's in relation to the housing authority, redeveloping and rehabbing and repainting some of their units?
Yeah, and they moved people out.
Well, it's HUD funding, but it's under public and Indian housing. It's not our funding, so there's not a connection that way. And we're aware that the housing authority is remodeling their units. I don't think that anybody that is living there is going to be displaced out. I think they're going to be possibly moved to another unit within the building. So I don't think that they're going to be removed completely out of the building. I think the housing authority, from my understanding, is just remodeling, and they are moving people out of their units into other units as they remodel, and then they move back or into another unit in the building. So it's not that they're going to be removed completely out of the building. At least that's my understanding, that they're just remodeling the buildings.
Well,
I don't know if
some
there's-
have been told they would be moved out, and there would be an expense. They would have to store their stuff and have the expense of moving back.
Okay.
I mean, I've heard that from a number of people.
Hmm.
So I was wondering if they would have the option of moving into these new units without having that extra expense that they would have in moving back into their old units?
Mhm.
Or have you even, has that been brought up?
That has not. Again, I wasn't aware that they were told that they might have to leave and it would be their
Yeah.
own expense. It's certainly something, we work with the Housing Authority, so we
Mhm.
can certainly follow up and find out.
Okay, if they have
About
the
it?
option to move into the new units
Right.
without
Now, the Housing Authority,
additional expense.
they are not involved in the Aspen court. But,
Just came from the township meeting last night,
Oh,
and they were talking about how can we use some of the transitional emergency funds to help persons because they'll end up being homeless if they have to spend an extra $200 or $300
Mhm.
for storage. And maybe the township can pick up that fee.
oh,
It's
But
possible.
there needs to be a coordination effort.
Mhm.
Because there is no housing stock currently in Urbana for that bracket where they would move into. And that was the
Mhm.
other issue, is that we don't have the housing stock in Urbana to accommodate people transitioning. So that was, the comment was, what are we gonna do? And then there was a big concern about the new housing director. That was a big issue last
Mhm.
night, because they feel as if there's nobody there that has the interest of Urbana at heart.
Right.
Just trying to give you information so you may
Mhm.
want to talk with Connie?
Cindy Herrera.
Cindy
She's,
Herrera.
yeah, she's the
Yes.
acting.
yes, we're aware
Executive
that they
director.
are in the search for an executive director. I don't know where they are at in that search, and that's something that we wanted to follow up. And
That
I
was
know,
a big concern. I mean, it was probably a 2-hour conversation about, well, how are we going to handle people who are caught?
Mhm.
Because they end up homeless and end up in
Right.
shelter, and if we can capture them before they make that trip over.
right.
Mm.
homelessness.
We also have, like, there's tenant-based rent assistance. So that's a possibility that maybe they might qualify, which is like a Section 8 voucher, but it's using our home funds. And there's different agencies. I think Courage Connection actually has received money for that and have stated that they will be serving the whole community, not just their clients, if I'm understanding. So
The
that's a
biggest thing is
possibility,
that-
so-
is that tenants don't know.
right,
And they end up homeless, and then it takes so much money to get them going again.
right.
If we can capture them early before they even transition, and maybe even have an agreement with a rental unit, that, just don't want people end up homeless, so we gotta
Right.
deal with more
We,
expense.
we're also, we are meeting with Danielle Chenoweth tomorrow regarding social service process, and we can certainly
Bring that up again.
bring that and talk to her about that.
It came up last night,
Mhm.
so sure.
okay.
Yep, so we will see about getting more information and figuring out what can be done to it, how to assist the residents.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, a couple of questions, but first with regard to what was just being discussed there. There's a lot of those housing units I know, and especially university housing units and other large ones like that. They do that sort of painting and remodeling. It's done on a rolling basis anyway. There's never more than a handful of units in play, where it's not like the whole building needs to be evacuated and then painted for weeks. So I would hope that they would be incorporating some of that, whereas, as Fred mentioned, person may be shifted from this unit to a similar unit of another number, but if you only have a few people, a few units at a time that are actually being painted, it's
Yeah.
not much of an issue, really.
Right, that was kind of what my thought was,
Yeah.
but I haven't been to Housing Authority. Have you been to any of the meetings?
Yeah,
lately?
I was at a housing authority board meeting when this was discussed, and I believe Cindy Herrera she mentioned that that was the intent, and she would like for that to happen, but she just couldn't promise that it would based on
Gotcha.
the number of units they have available.
Sure.
She did say that it was HUD that required that the flooring be redone throughout the entire building at the same time. And that was their capital needs assessment that identified the need, which prevented them. She said at the meeting that the housing authority tried to push back against that and tried to keep people within the same building and not doing it all at the same time, but it was to no avail.
I know a lot of that's always played with,
Yeah.
its definitions and its loopholes. At the same time can be defined by all happening in a 24-hour period or over consecutive 6 months, and it's still all at the same time. So I think they usually get into some practicalities there where obviously you can't displace a whole housing unit and expect them all to be somewhere waiting for 2 weeks until they can all come back. That'd be kind of strange. So, question I had, there was discussion there about the common amenities. What all is included in what's being considered common amenities at the moment?
We're still researching that at this point. One of the ideas that came up, we've been in discussion with the Learman Neighborhood Action Committee about this, and we want it to drive from them. We want to know, they represent the larger neighborhood, including but also beyond Aspen Court. And we want to know from them, what amenities are really lacking in the area. And one of them that has jumped out is that, just having a meeting space. Their meetings take place at the Urbana Free Library right now. So, that's something, just a basic community center could be a possibility. The possibility of a computer lab has come up. Our CDBG funds are very broad, and they offer a lot of possibilities. But really, we need it to come from, the neighborhood and what they have in mind.
Right. I would think that it would have to. I mean, to me, the common amenities, I think we could do fine with attaching CDBG funds specifically to something there, as long as there was something specific. Otherwise, if they go into a general pool, I don't see how you're going to avoid Davis-Bacon.
And that's our thought
Right.
exactly. We intend to clear it with HUD because it's approaching, it's not necessarily black or white. Is this the same project? Would it trigger the regulations? We don't know. But yeah, that's our thought, is that it would have to be something starkly different than the general rehab.
Yeah. Certainly, if there was something that was there, I don't see it would fall right in line with the plan. Yeah. So that would be good. Thank you.
Thank you.
I also want to point out Janelle Gomez, the acting neighborhood services manager, is here tonight in the audience. If you have any questions for her, I'm sure she'd be more than willing to answer them.
Okay. All right. Do you have any comments for us?
I mean, I can, sorry.
Why don't you come up and,
I can update you on where we are with Bristol redevelopment, or answer any questions you have about the Bristol project, if you'd like. No? Well,
Yeah, how much longer?
how much longer? We are just about completing phase one. Phase one is the acquisition, demolition, and relocation of the area. We tonight, going to City Council, are the final 7 demolitions. We've acquired every property in the area, and we are going to City Council with the final 7 demolitions. We relocated 50 families out of the area, out of the neighborhood, of which 46 stayed in our community, both Champaign and Urbana. A few people moved out of state or out of state. 4 people moved out of state. For other opportunities. They took their voucher and went to other states or other communities. And 21 took Housing Choice vouchers, and the remaining clients are living in the community with a Uniform Relocation Act payment for 46 or 60 months, depending on their family situation. We have chosen a developer and have a site plan and got approved for our low-income housing tax credits. The developer is planning to close in the spring, with construction starting immediately, hopefully in April or May, and construction of the first 90 units, which will be single-family homes and row houses, to be complete in the spring of 19. So that's where we are with Bristol. The first phase includes 90 houses. I don't know the exact numbers. I think there will be around 60 single-family homes, and the remaining 30 are in row houses.
I have a question.
Go
Janelle,
ahead.
one of the discussion points we always have when we think about these new projects is, are we adding capacity or losing? So what's the answer to that, and can you just talk about that
Adding
for a bit?
capacity for,
Families or individuals?
like, affordability or
Like units? Like
unit?
Yeah, more than what was
55
there.
families were displaced in that
Oh,
area.
so we started out with 90 parcels and about, in the end, 50 occupied units. And there'll be 2 phases to the actual development. The first phase is this 90 single-family and townhouses. The additional will be 90 senior units in a multifamily building on the north end of the project, kind of on Roper. There'll be 2 senior buildings. Of that, I believe it's going to be a mixed income development, but the affordable units will be numbering, I think, in about 150 affordable units. So we're definitely creating some more opportunities than we left behind, than we took away. Additionally, which isn't counted in our figure, is we have people that have moved out of the neighborhood with a voucher or with rental assistance that won't move back in. So those numbers won't come in our final figures, but those persons have either a voucher, a long-term voucher, which we're able to get a large number of the clients into a voucher situation, or at least a 5-year time frame in which they have assistance to pay, for an affordable unit in the community. So that is a point that we're proud of, that we think we are creating more opportunities than we're taking away. There definitely were some challenges and some things that are being lost in the community, but the project, we feel at this point that we've developed, is really creating something that'll be a benefit to the people that move there.
What is the projected project completion?
Spring of 2019 for the phase 1, and then full with the senior housing, I believe it's 4 additional years, so by 2021 would be the 2 senior buildings.
Okay. Been a long time coming.
Yeah, and additionally, we'll be having the boneyard improvements will be occurring at the same time in that neighborhood,
Yeah.
which will include Park District and some planning for a large retention and amenities for the neighborhood.
Okay, I was wondering also how much it has spread since the original plan. The original plan was sort of located right around the Roper area, and then it was expanded, and I was wondering how much it has expanded.
Well, I don't know the
area-wise.
whole history. I wasn't back in 2008, 2009 when they were developing the plan, but from when I've been involved in the project, the plan has stayed within the area of the Bristol Place neighborhood, which is the area that is bound by Market and the railroad tracks, Bradley, and then the all the way up past north of Roper. And that is still the development plan for the housing. There are other things that have occurred. For example, the Park District and Human Kinetics have created a plan for a new community center, a large multi-million-dollar community center on the site of where Human Kinetics, where the nursing home used to be. And the Boneyard Creek plan improvement has occurred as well, that will be connecting, the 2nd Street basin all the way up to the interstate. So there are other things occurring outside of the neighborhood that may have been related or spurred by the development we're doing there, but the specific plan for affordable housing has stayed in the Bristol Place neighborhood.
Okay. Anyone else? No, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything from staff? Anything else?
Nothing additional from us.
Okay, well, we as the commission have the usual 3 options. To forward it as is, as recommended, or to recommend it with changes, or to not recommend it. So I'll entertain a motion for one of those. We all,
I'll move
Thank you,
that we forward the resolutions to council with a recommendation for approval.
is there a second? Okay. Any comments, questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Ayes have it, and the resolution passes. Okay, Emergency Solutions Grant. I understand that's been deleted?
Yes, it was removed
Okay.
from the agenda. Yes.
That being the case, we have no study session for anything. Any commissioners have any other issues you'd like to bring up at this time? If not,
I have one thing I want to mention
Okay.
that I forgot to in the staff report. Highland Green, the ribbon cutting ceremony, is next Monday, the 11th, at noon. So it's going to be meeting at the community center there at Crystal View at noon. There'll be ribbon cutting, there'll be food, some music, and then it'll move up to Highland Green. So you are all invited to, I think I sent an email out, but I wanted to let you as a reminder know that you're all invited to attend the ribbon cutting ceremony. I think it's 102 Stebbins is this, it's off of Broadway. There's the community center right there, and so I think that's where it's going to start, and then it will move up to Highland Green from there. So it'll be about an hour and a half long, noon to about 1:30. So
yeah, right across from Crystal Lake Park.
yes, yes. So hopefully that will work with your schedules, that you can at least stop by for a little bit if you're not able to stay the whole time. So thank you.
Okay. Anyone else have anything? If not, meeting is now adjourned, and thank you for your participation.